All right, before we get to the next two resolutions, they both pertain to the Coke Fairlife project on Tibor Road. The Coke Fairlife team has a presentation that they would like to do. And I will say, I think it's a derivation of the presentation that you've done to the planning board and the zoning board, and it's very informative, and I'm happy that you guys were willing to do this for the town board. Dave, I'll hand the baton to you.
Thank you, Supervisor Flaherty, and we appreciate the opportunity to present in front of the town board tonight. My name is David Mann. I'm with the Coca-Cola Company as Senior Director of Supply Chain Strategy. I'm joined with Scott and with Marie from Haskell. Just given that there's two mics, we're going to take turns coming up and presenting. What we wanted to share tonight was a little bit of an update on our project, provide an overview of the site, some of the design elements for the mitigation to neighbors and the local community, and then provide some information on our fill and excavation timeline. So it was 5 short months ago, we appeared in front of the town board with the sketch plan review. We had made a public announcement for our new production facility after an intensive multi-state site selection search that spanned over 10 months. We came to Webster for several reasons, particularly for the favorable dairy environment, for the local workforce and experience in manufacturing, for the characteristics of the Tibor Road land parcel and proximity to the roadways here in New York and in the Northeast, the available utilities including the wastewater facility, the approval timeline, and then most importantly the town board and town staff's capability to manage a large-scale project. And since May, we followed a pretty rigorous process with the town and with the 3 local boards, submitting over 20 documents, including thousands of pages of information with those documents, and responding to over 200 comments from the town, county, and state level agencies, including the New York DEC, MCDOT, NY DOT, Monroe County Health Department, among many others. So definitely the town put us through the paces over the last 5 months and brought us to a culmination of what we'll present tonight. In terms of just a summary of the key meetings since the public announcement back in May, we've met largely with this board, with the planning board and the zoning board of appeals. We've also met with the neighbors that surround the Tibor Road property twice. First, just sharing our engineering plans and hearing their concerns, and then following up a couple months later to address some of their concerns, having done several of our studies, which we'll share tonight, and incorporating some of the feedback that we heard in those meetings. Also met with the Webster community, with the construction community, and then again, as we went through the submittals and applications, provided updates and shared information with each of the boards. So that brings us to tonight. We want to share some of the updates that we gave the planning board and the ZBA on some of the design elements of our facility and some of the feedback we've incorporated based on what we've heard from the neighbors and the local residents. I'm going to hand it over to Scott to walk through the site and some of those design elements.
Okay. Good evening, Scott. My name is Haskell. So I'll walk through the site and some of the design elements tonight. Starting at the northwest corner, letter A here is just an extension of our original I had, but it's been incorporated. Letter B is also letter B is a berm as well with a 14-foot sound wall on top. Letter C is the truck parking and finished goods. Letter D is the extension of the berm and sound wall to protect the neighbors to the east. Letter F is a small berm with a sound wall on top as well. G is the auto parking for the employees, and letter E is the stormwater ponds that have been sized per New York standards. So next we have a cross-section showing the residential zone area on the right-hand side. 50 feet west of that will be the 14-foot wall. This will be constructed on top of the 6-foot berm. Going west of that, or left of that, excuse me, is a drainage swale. Continuing left is a 14-foot tall light pole. This light pole will actually be shorter than, 16-foot light pole, which will actually be shorter than the top of the wall of the berm at 20 foot in total height. So we did an acoustical analysis of the site. We wanted to measure the current acoustic levels on site and then the post-construction sound levels. With our initial design, we thought that we would use a 6 to 8 foot high sound wall. But upon completion of the acoustic study, it was determined that a 14-foot sound wall would be required, which is what's been provided. So this is just a picture here showing the orange line that you see here, the limits of a sound wall. So again, this wall will be 14 feet in height on top of the 6-foot berm. It will have sound deadening, acoustic deadening properties with the shape of the, excuse me. So this will have a stone facade and will blend in with the surroundings. So we went out and to 3 of the properties that were gracious enough to let us go on site and actually take pictures of their property. So we took these pictures during the summer condition, and we were subsequently asked, well, what happens in the winter condition when everything is dead? So we generated a couple of graphics to show, in the summer condition, you can see some of the silos here, and in the winter condition, you can see a few more of those as well. So same story here, summer condition at the bottom, and then in the winter condition, you can see some of the ASRS in the background.
At both of our,
And again here, in the summer condition, with the winter condition in the back, and the ASRS is visible. So the next study we conducted was a photometric study to determine the light level effects throughout the site. So on the east side of the site here, we have the 12-foot pole on a 4-foot base for 16-foot height. Coming in at the auto drive, we have 4-foot high bollard lights to keep light from intruding to the neighbors to the north. And then in the finished good area, the trucks, we do have 24-foot high poles, and this is due to the fact that the truck trailers are 13.5 feet in height, so we need to provide light around those trucks. So the traffic study was conducted. This traffic study included the addition of the Bolter Park extension here. Subsequently, we went back and amended the study to include Basket Road with the addition of the Bolter extension as well as the right-hand turn lane leaving Basket. It was found that there was no significant adverse impacts to the current level of service. And finally, we looked at stormwater management. So we do have a 2-part treatment system for water quality and quantity. Water will enter into dry swales and storm sewer system. From there, it's conveyed to the 2 wet ponds to the north. There was some concern with flooding on the northwest portion. This was expressed by the neighbors off of Basket Road, and we have decreased those discharge rates to those neighbors. I'll turn it over to Marie.
Thanks, Scott. So what I'm going to go over is actually the schedule for the proposed fill and excavation that we intend to mobilize on the site in mid-October. Just kind of showing that our intent is to make sure that we are mitigating all storm runoff first prior to doing any construction work. So we first protect the wetlands, which by law you're not allowed to touch. And then we put in the silt fences and start to clear and grub for the sediment basins, which will control the stormwater on site. From there, we then can finish clearing and grubbing the site. There will be rock blasting that will occur. We intend to start that in December as we clear the site and get ready for mass and then fine grading into March and hopefully finish by the end of March, pending winter conditions, which, may happen in this area. So really excited to share that schedule with you and happy to elaborate. We've got a meeting set with Josh and Paul and Pat in the next couple of weeks to kind of go through that in more detail. So in summary, as Dave mentioned, we've really been through quite a lot with this town and appreciate all of the concern for the health, safety, and welfare of the Webster community, and have modified our design to ensure that there is no impact to the community with this project. We've reviewed the engineer's estimate for the fill and excavation at $11.3 million. And the goal of that bond is to ensure that we're going to actually do proper fill and excavation as we're designing the site. And as the leader of the project, we feel pretty confident that we're going to make sure that we leave it in good hands. And the excavation, as we're starting with the stormwater, will have no adverse effects to the neighbors that we're trying to listen to and be friendly around.
So we gave you the short overview of some of the design elements. Tonight we're here requesting for an industrial use permit for dairy processing for approval of the proposed engineer estimate in the amount of 11.3 surety bond for the site grading work, and to authorize the issuance of the excavation and fill permit. We also want to sincerely, we want to recognize the town board, each of the town boards and the staff for all the time and dedication that this town's put towards our project. We're truly appreciative of it, and we've got a stronger project because of all the collaboration and feedback from the town along the way.
Well, and that's the end of the presentation. I didn't want to jump ahead. I will say, Dave, along the last lines, right back at you, because the last 5 months, this has been pretty robust. The Coke team's been great. And I was telling Dave and Kevin and Tom out in the crowd today, we were in a meeting with Patty, that I mentioned to a couple of developers this week in some meetings we had about proposed things they wanted to bring to the planning board or potentially the zoning board. And I said, you could learn a lesson from what Coke did. Why don't you reach out to the affected neighbors on what you're proposing and get in front of it and talk to them and see what their concerns would be. The way you did that, I thought, was really a class move. I know on May 30th, when you met with the neighbors, I was there at the Arboretum. It was a little tough, but you came back 2 months later and you said, we listened to what you said, and this is what we are going to do to address those things. Very nicely done. So,
Thank you.
Well, with that being said, we have 2 resolutions here, and we have them on the agenda somewhat in reverse order, sequentially of how they should be done. So number 5 is the resolution to consider an industrial use permit for the Fairlife project at the eastern terminus of T-Board Road. Before I make a motion on this, do the board members have any questions, concerns, anything that they saw, videos coming out of the planning board, zoning board, anything along the ways?
No, I just had a comment based on your presentation, and I just wanted to thank you, as Tom had acknowledged, for meeting with the neighbors, and as your presentation showed, you heeded and took action as to their concerns. I greatly appreciate your company doing that.
Josh, do you think we could build into the code that there's going to have to be, before they come to the planning board, they got to go meet with the neighbors? Or is that a non-starter? Not Coke, they did it. I'm talking about other, we can dream. Anybody else? Comments, questions?
I appreciate the recap. It's a good reminder of how far we've come.
Yeah. Well, I make a motion to for an industrial use permit for the Fairlife project at the eastern terminus of Tibor Road.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn?
Aye.
Councilwoman McCollum?
Aye.
Councilman Allen?
Aye.
Okay, and the next one, which is a fill grading excavation permit for Fairlife, that one, I have a resolution here, before I read it, first of all, it was drafted by several people, I would say. I think we took a lot from Tom Walsh. Is he here? Is he behind? He's behind the beam, right? So I want to thank you. I always appreciate someone taking a white piece of paper and starting with a draft. There's a skill to that. They have to be open to the fact that it will get edited. Charlie, I knew you took some things at this, Josh, Pat. You know, we just wanted to make sure that we had this resolution, especially as we do it from memorialization, that it's unequivocal in its interpretation because it's a pretty large project, to say the least. Marie, as you had said, just the fact that it's almost a $12 million surety bond on the moving of the dirt, for lack of better terms. And how many yards did it say?
The actual cut fill is listed, the estimate was over 200,000 cubic yards.
I wish,
And
you
the
know, I love my
extraordinary is
numbers.
100 acres.
Yeah, I love my numbers. I know we've done fill permits here at the board before. And Bill, you might have.
Anything this big?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it is, but that shouldn't surprise anybody. We've said it all along. This is a very large project and probably we don't have a precedent. Just as a little background for the board before I propose this, and I think you had it in the presentation, the tentative closing date on the real estate where Coke or Fairlife is taking title, I think is October 18th.
That's right.
And you'll hear in this resolution as I make it that one of the key parts to this and just is that, you know, obviously it's like buying a house. I know that when I bought my house years ago, if I closed on September 30th, it's funny that sellers didn't let my family move in on September 20th, 10 days beforehand. Same logic here. They will be entitled, that closing will occur, title will transfer to Coke and Fairlife, and then they can start doing their fun with Tonka trucks and whatever with the dirt. Is that correct, Marie?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Okay. Knowing there that the typical engineer's estimate for site work or whatever, this one in the presentation identified the earthwork, moving the dirt and all that. Over the next couple months, I think you'll come back and finish, for lack of better terms, the engineer's estimate of the other site work, roads, pipe infrastructure, retention, all that usually goes into your standard. And I know in the resolution, in fact, Tom Walsh, when he drafted it, it looks like that's a $40 to $50 million estimate, and we won't hold you to that because it's an estimate. I think that's what it says, Tom.
Yeah, it's all inclusive, so the 11 is a.
Is in
a
there,
portion
yes.
of
And
that.
right, it's not, good point, Marie. And once again, unequivocal in its interpretation, it's very important. And Bill, I'll look at you again. How many engineers' estimates of site work and all that, Bill, have you seen at $40 to $50 million?
None in all the years I've worked.
Okay. And he's worked a lot of years.
Yeah.
So, Charlie, I'm gonna read this resolution. And just like I said, make sure I'm reading the right one. And I want to make sure from Josh that what you have on the resolution doesn't include the conditions are embodied in it, or is that the separate page that you had here?
No, the conditions are incorporated into
Well, that is wonderful. I mean, showing that we work right up until about 20 minutes before board meeting, right? Okay. I am going to make a motion, the Webster Town Board granting, no, that's not it. And that's the problem working right up. Where is this? Here it is. This is it. Okay, but I caught myself before. How about the final version of this? Make this motion, the town board of the town of Webster granting applicant Fairlife LLC's request for an excavation and fill permit. At a regular meeting of the town board of the town of Webster, Monroe County, New York, held at the town board meeting room, 1002 Ridge Road, in the town of Webster, New York, on the 5th day of October, 2020, 5th day of October 2023 at 7:30 p.m. With the full board in attendance, along with town attorney Charlie Canesi. The following is being offered as a motion. Whereas the applicant has applied for an excavation and fill permit pursuant Webster Code Section 159.3 and Webster Code Section 2014, which application has received a favorable report from the town engineer that the proposed excavation and filling will not have an adverse effect on drainage at adjoining properties, or requires a resolution of the town board to direct and authorize the town clerk to issue said excavation and fill permit. And whereas pursuant to Webster Town Code Section 201-4, subchapter D, the town board finds that 1, the proposed filling will not interfere with proper drainage of the subject property and surrounding lands and conforms to the drainage laws of the town of Webster and County of Monroe. 2, the proposed filling will not adversely affect the use and enjoyment of abutting properties, and the proposed grades are consistent with the development and use of properties in the general area. 3, the proposed filling will be accomplished in such a manner as to not create any undue traffic hazard at any public highway or endanger the lives or property of the neighboring property owners. 4, the material used in such filling will be suitable for any proposed use of the land and will not be dangerous, obnoxious, or offensive to neighboring residents and properties. 5, the proposed fill is not within the right-of-way of any town, county, or state street or roadway. And finally, 6, the proposal is reasonable and necessary, will not endanger the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the town of Webster, and will not cause unreasonable, uncontrolled, or unnecessary damage to the natural resources of the state, including soil, forest, water, fish, and aquatic resources. And whereas the applicant has provided a preliminary estimate of $40 to $50 million for the cost to implement its civil work at the premises, including the cost of work to be performed under the excavation and fill permit. And whereas the applicant has provided an engineer's estimate of $11,300,000 for the cost of the work to be performed under the excavation and fill permit. And whereas the applicant has proposed and the finance director and town attorney have no objection to the bonding letter of credit requirements of the Webster Town Code, Section 159-4, Webster Town Code, Section 204-4, Subchapter F, and Webster Town Code, Section 269-4 for the civil work, including the excavation and fill permit, being met by 2 separate surety bonds issued to the town of Webster, with the surety bond for the work to be performed under the excavation and fill permit. The applicant proposes to be left in place until all the work under the excavation and fill permit has been completed to the satisfaction of the highway superintendent. Now, therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby approves, pursuant to Webster Town Code Section 159.6 and Webster Town Code Section 201-4, Subchapter F, a surety bond as to form, duration, manner of execution, and sufficiency of the surety for the grading work under the excavation and fill permit to be implemented by the applicant at the premises. Resolved that the town board hereby authorizes, pursuant to Webster Town Code Section 159-4 and Webster Town Code Section 201-4, Subchapter D, the town clerk of the town of Webster to issue an excavation and fill permit to the applicant after the surety bond has been filed to said town clerk upon the following conditions subsequent. 1, no excavation or filling of the premises shall occur until this excavation and fill permit, under this excavation and fill permit, until applicant has taken title to the real property involved and provided proof of such to the town. 2, precautions must be taken by applicant to prevent material from falling upon Tibor Road, Basket Road, or any street or right-of-way, or undermining the same of any of them, particularly if excavation occurs within 10 feet of any of them. 3, no refuse, garbage, rubbish, offal, is that how you pronounce it? O-F-F-A-L? It's a great word. Or other deleterious or unwholesome material may be used as fill at or otherwise be dumped or deposited at the premises or on streets or highways or in any of the streams, tributaries, lakes, bays, or waterways within the town of Webster. 4, water, dust, preventative, or similar material shall be used and applied to prevent dust and sand from flying or being carried from said premises during and on the completion of said excavation and filling. 5, the premises shall be graded to a level which shall provide free runoff of surface water at all places. 6, at least 4 inches of topsoil will be replaced upon the areas of the premises from which topsoil is removed, which will not be covered by a building structure, road, sidewalk, or other hardscape. And there shall be reseeding with a permanent pasture mixture, or other fast-growing surface vegetation, and that such reseeding shall continue until growth can be reestablished. 7, fill may only be brought to the premises for the purpose of filling to establish grades per the plans submitted with the application for the excavation and fill permit. 8, no filling shall occur in any navigable waters of the state of New York or United States unless a letter of non-jurisdiction approval or permit therefore has been issued by the appropriate federal or state agency. 9, all material dumped must be leveled off as soon as practicable after being deposited. 10, the applicant shall provide the building division with a map showing where the land has been filled to a depth greater than 5 feet. 11, all fees associated with the excavation and fill work are to be paid in full prior to any construction activity occurring. 12, staging of the materials that are not related to excavation and fill work is not permitted. 13, the excavation and fill plan shall be signed by town staff to indicate the approval from the town. 14, the engineer's estimate and final amount of surety bond is subject to review and approved by town staff. 15, the surety bond must be in place and filed with the town prior to any excavation and fill activity commencing. 16, the stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWIP, will need to be approved by the town and the MS4 acceptance form signed. 17, a notice of intent, NOI, needs to be filed with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the New York State DEC. 18, the New York State DEC acknowledges letter permit will need to be provided to the town prior to any excavation and fill activities. 19, the 5-acre waiver request will need to be reviewed and approved by the town prior to grading activities and disturbances exceeding 5 acres. 20, the subdivision plat will need to be executed and filed with proof of such provided to the town prior to any construction activity. And finally, 21, a pre-construction meeting and site walk will be held with the applicant and contractor prior to any construction activity. That is my motion.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilwoman Contaldi,
Aye.
Councilman Abbott,
Aye.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wood.
Aye.
That's a lot of reading.
A lot of conditions.
It is, but like we said, in layman terms, we want to keep the ball moving. and the pre-construction meeting for really the rest of it will be coming forthcoming. I know you're trying to figure out a date for that, but there's a lot of things.
Yeah, we have a pre-construction meeting for the fill and excavation on the 13th of October, and then once we have all the milers signed and are ready, we will schedule the subsequent one for the industrial use permit.
That's great, yeah. So that's where, I mean, just want to get them going. All right? Wow. That's something. May 9th, I think, was the press release
That's right.
saying you intend to come to Webster, and it is October 5th. That's less than 5 months. And as Dave, you and I have talked, I mean, you love Georgia. You got an education in New York sleeper and things, huh?
Absolutely.
Wow. It's a unique state, I guess. All right.